This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 94 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Today we're talking about one of my very, very favourite topics. It's about how travel changes kids. You've probably heard me talk before about how travel changed me as a kid and basically set me up for this entire life of travel addiction, travel blogging, travel podcasting, travel everything. So it definitely changed me. But what I want to talk about today is, well, partly how it's changing my son in such a positive way. And then I have three guests who chat about what travel has done for either their kids or themselves as a child. I've got a bit of a mix there. So that's our topic today, how travel changes kids. And I've got another new sponsor for you next week. But this week, I'm actually instead of a sponsor, I'd like to send you to a blog post I published at Not a Ballerina this past week that I'm particularly proud of, because it's one of those blog posts that I, have been wanting to write something like this for a long time. And after our recent trip to Japan, I was overwhelmed with things I wanted to say, and I really did try to say them in a nice way, or in a really put together way. So I've got a post at notaballerina.com at the moment called "The Life-Changing Magic of Taking My Son to Japan." And as you can imagine, it's all about the kinds of things I learned about my son and myself during our fortnight in Japan recently, and also how travel has impacted him during his so far only 8 years on Earth, but which is it's crazy to think about it. I had never really travelled at all when I was his age. I did shortly after. At 9 was my big life-changing travel beginning as a kid. But at 8, I hadn't done it. So I would love it if you could head over to Not a Ballerina and read that post. I've got a short link for you. If you're not right at the computer, you might remember it. It's at notaballerina.com/Japan 2018, because it was about Japan in 2018. And a little side note, which is something that happened since I wrote that blog post. My son was very lucky that one of his best friends at school also went to Japan about 2 or 3 weeks before him, not long before, so similar timing. And I was just so delighted the other day. My son was home, it was school holidays, and he had another friend around, and I heard them out in the backyard, and they were playing a game called Shinkansen, which is, of course, the Japanese for bullet train. And it turned out that my son and the first best buddy, who has recently been to Japan, had invented this game where they kind of run around and there's different bullet train stops, and then they announce in Japanese the stop that they're stopping at. So they say, for example, Osaka desu, which means, this is Osaka, which is what they say on the train. And he and his other little buddy were running around in the backyard saying this. And they had obviously even managed to teach probably their whole group of friends how to speak with perfect Japanese pronunciation. And they'd remembered all of their main destinations that both my son and his friend had been to in Japan. And it was just gorgeous to listen to this. So it's a simple thing, but it's something that they will remember for a long time. It's a month ago since we got home and they're still playing Shinkansen. So it's really, really gorgeous. Anyway, that's just one of those little things that travel can do for kids. And I've got a whole bunch more to talk about today. Now, my first guest is Stina Frantzich Gardiner. She's a Swedish friend of mine here in Perth. And she, of course, has done a lot of travel over the years, and so have her kids. In fact, as I record this, they are back in Sweden for a holiday and have just been to the UK. So they're still travelling, but I think they might be back in Perth by the time this gets released. But anyway, I chatted with Stina before she left about the experiences her kids have had while they've been travelling.
Being a mum, just travelling with kids, babies and children, that's definitely life-changing, because obviously without them, you just do your own thing and go to sleep and wake up and that's it. Although it's funny when you become a parent, you kind of just take it in your stride a bit. And I think Orla was 6 months when she was on her first flight, only between Sweden and England, but still. Things thinking back on it, I'm like, why did we do that? It's too hard. As in, we could have just not done some of our trips, but no, we did it. And actually, now we have Ellis as well. They're coming up to 6 and 10. They are really good travellers because I think they've done it enough. They kind of know what the deal is. But yeah, definitely. I mean, now that they're older, I'm thinking I don't have to do nappies and bottles and.
Oh, it's so much easier once they don't need all that equipment.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely life changing, but done ever so well.
I think you're right though. When they've grown up doing it fairly regularly, that makes a big difference because it's just a normal. It's not a really weird thing for them. It's just a normal thing, and they kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah, because we put them on planes for hours on end. Some kids probably wouldn't feel comfortable, or there's a million reasons. But you're kind of stuck, so you have to. So I'm grateful that they're excited about that. But that would have changed. I'm not sure if that's the sort of travel moment you're thinking of, but that was life changing.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think that's do you think that? That them having travelled often has changed how they see the world or changed how they are as kids?
Definitely, yeah. I'm not saying that kids who haven't travelled are any less.
No.
But I think it gives you perspective. A 5-year-old kind of knows that there is that country over on the other side where we do this and they talk like that. So from a learning and perspective point of view. And also I think they... the sort of social skills. I think my kids are kind of good at looking people in the eye and saying hello and making an effort. I'm not saying they're perfect all the time and every day, but if you had kids who kind of only do the normal sort of see their family and go to school and don't get much further, then those are skills that I think you learn when you're on the road. And they're very excited. They talk to everyone, everywhere.
Oh, lovely.
Which helps,
yes.
mostly. I think it's just really good learning travelling, isn't it?
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
And I'm certain, now that we've moved here, that they're going to turn around and just go overseas as soon as they're old enough, and I'll be the mum stuck on the other side of the world.
Probably you're exactly right.
Yeah, I'm gearing up for that. I'm ready for it. But,
I feel the same. I feel like I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot. I'm trying to raise my son to love travelling. And then, at some stage he's going to say, right, Mum, I'm out of here. And I'll be like, no, don't go, I'll miss you. So, but I think I'll just follow him then.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good excuse. I'm trying to think what else. Growing up in Europe, we'd go on a plane and go to London or Paris. I'd seen some places when I was reasonably young and been on a plane. It was a bit of an eye-opener. I was about 20 or 21 when I went to Australia the first time.
Uh-huh.
And just doing a long haul was I was on my own. I was going, my aunt and uncle were in Sydney and a cousin, so I had people at the other end, but just getting on that plane and kind of stopping somewhere in the middle of the world where you'd never been before and back again, and all those hours, that was a bit, oh my God, you kind of forget once you've landed and you walk off. But yeah, that was a bit of a learning curve, that's for sure.
Yes, because it really is a really long way, and then I think that makes you feel much more distant from home, perhaps. It does add a different dimension to just being a short single plane ride away. Stina's kids sound pretty lucky, hey, and they've had a great beginning to life with this kind of impressionable age, learning so much from travelling. In another part of our chat, Stina and I also chatted about their bilingualism, because she's been really clever at being able to keep their Swedish language skills up. So now that they're visiting family in Sweden, they can still chat away in Swedish, and that's something I'm pretty envious of. It's so much easier to learn a language when you're just a kid. So that's fantastic. Now, my next guest today is another local Perth buddy. This is Reeva Cutting, and she grew up in South Africa. And so we're talking actually today about her experience as a child with travelling and how this changed her outlook, I suppose, on the world and on travelling.
My first experience with flying was as an unaccompanied minor, which was pretty terrifying.
How old were you?
I'm trying to think. I was probably 7.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So at that stage, my parents lived in different cities, and it was an hour flight between them.
Wow.
So I used to fly every second weekend to see my dad.
Oh, gosh, that regularly. Wow.
Yeah, so I would fly down on a Friday after school and then fly back on like a Sunday afternoon.
Wow, on your own?
Yeah, by myself. So I had that god-awful plastic bag where your ticket had to go in. So around your neck and your name, and everybody can see, like, you're like all by yourself.
Oh, no. Yes, it's kind of like, here, look at me, I'm your target.
But it was really good because, I mean, you were always with an air hostess. So somebody was always with you. Like, there was special waiting areas where you would wait. You wouldn't just, be in the general public waiting.
Okay,
And it was in the day and age where you actually had physical paper tickets.
Yes.
And they used to tear a bit off, and the check-in person would take that one, and there'd be a different colour one, and you give that one to the air hostess, and then you take a different colour one when you got off.
Yes.
And
Back
my god,
in the day,
it was so crazy. So yeah, you always had to have that in your little pouch, and I used to fly by myself a lot.
And did it bother you?
In the beginning, I was really nervous, but after you've done it a few times, you're like, yeah, whatever, I know where I'm going. You don't have to tell me. Like, I know it's over there. I'm going to sit there. So you get a bit blasé about it because, it's also pretty cool when you work out what you're doing.
This is true.
I remember the best experience I had, because we used to see quite a lot of, well, I would say quite a lot. I saw a few kind of famous people in South Africa when I was flying.
Oh, cool.
Because everyone used to get on the plane first and I'd get on last.
Ah, okay.
And then I'd get off last as well, so if anybody was like getting their bags and stuff, I would see them.
Right.
So I flew once on a plane. I got on the plane, so I was really big into rugby, and I got onto the plane, and you had to always walk through, because they're domestic flights, the business class section, and then you go through to the economy. And as I turned the corner and I looked into business class, the entire Transvaal rugby team was sitting on the plane. They were flying to Durban for a match. And my jaw literally dropped. And the captain of the team, who was also the captain of South Africa at the time, saw me. And he just did the same thing to me. He was like,
oh, how gorgeous.
And then I was so embarrassed. And I kind of shut my mouth and I like hid behind the side. I was like, oh, he didn't see me. Like, so embarrassing. And I always wish I'd had the guts to like go up and say hello and get his autograph, because I never did. When we got off the plane, there was a couple of them still picking up their bags, so my dad gave me a book and he was like, go get them to sign. So I got a few of them, but not the main ones, because they'd already gone. But that memory always sticks out with me.
Yes, I bet.
Pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's like sending my son that age on a flight now on his own. I can't imagine doing it.
You can't, can you?
No. I mean, I guess it's a bit of a different time. Times are different. Yeah. Airports are more complicated than they used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, kids grow up, I don't know, they're younger in a way, and they're more protected. I don't know, but I can't imagine sending them off on a plane. No, but yes.
And on such a regular basis as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Did you feel that kind of the regular flying gave you a sense that, I don't know, like a sense of independence and an ability
absolutely.
to travel kind of?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't have an issue with flying after the first few ones.
Yeah.
It's always interesting meeting people who've never flown, even as like adults.
Yes,
I was just like, what?
that's
How can you not have flown? Obviously my experience was really unique, and not a lot of people would do what I did, but to me it was like, oh yeah, I did that. Wow. And that probably continued until I was like early teens, and then it just got less frequent, so I'd only go on the holidays because it was just too much,
Yes, when you've got homework and school stuff, it was
too complicated. And expensive.
Well, yes, I imagine. Yeah, that's right. Even a relatively short flight, it's still, yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, that's a really very interesting experience to have had. Very cool. It's a really interesting way to have grown up, having those regular flights. It's something that definitely not many kids experience, and I can see that it's shaped some of Reeva's experiences to do with travel and how she sees the world as well, I think. So, and probably developed an extra layer of confidence when it comes to travelling too. Now, my final guest today is Luke Mackin. Luke always has good stories to tell, and we started off with getting some tips from him about flying with kids. He has a lot of experience with flying with his young children. At one stage, they had 3 kids under 3, and, well, you'll hear in our chat, they did some really heavy-duty travelling with them and still do to this day. And I think because they're used to it, then they are amazing at travelling.
People always talk about getting the bulkhead when you have like young kids, and I guess that's fine. We always felt like the best was getting the very, very back seat of the airplane.
Ah, yes.
Because then, especially when they were little, I could ask the receptionist, what are they called when they check the check-in counter?
Goodness, I don't know. The person who works at the check-in counter.
Yeah. I would like show them my ticket. You know, we've got kids, like young kids, and we're in the very back seat. Is there any way we could board first? And 90% of the time they're like, oh yeah, no problem. And so that was nice. Just, you know, with 3 kids, kind of like, it's a little overwhelming, trying to shuffle them all through all the bags and everything. And so being able to go all the way back without people trying to come up the other way or put their bags up and just blocking the way and bumping into people's heads and stuff. It was nice. It was always nice to be able to do that. And then also, you're right near the bathrooms in case there's some kind of accident.
Good move.
There's less people around if your kid is, you know, having their ears pop and they're crying, you know, and it's really bothering them. There's less people that you're really bothering, I feel like. And then on the long haul flights, it's just easier to get up and kind of like mingle in the back, walk around a little bit. You don't have to walk up and down the aisle as far.
Yeah, it is a much easier spot. You're right. I never even thought of that. And especially when there's, like a family of 5, it's, you know, you've got a kind of almost your own little space there.
Yeah,
where
exactly. You really do. And then the flight attendants are right nearby, so they're usually, you know, get to know them a little bit, and they're nicer, I feel like. Treat the kids well.
Yes,
and then getting off the plane, if you're not in a rush, like it's nice to not have to feel that pressure of like, I got to get my stuff before all these people, and I can just like take our time getting off, and being the last ones off, it's no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I always felt like the back seat was the place for the kids.
Oh no, that's actually, yes, that's very wise. I think it's and often if the plane's not full, then the empty seats are going to be back there as well, so then you get the chance to spread out sometimes. And
yeah. So anyways, that was one thing that we learned from traveling.
Are your kids pretty good travelers? So you've got 3 of them all close together, so once that's 3 under 3, so that's a lot of young children to move with.
Yeah, they're amazing travelers. It's because we have to travel a lot, like from when they were very little, infants. We've traveled, and certain periods where like visa stuff is more complicated, or for whatever reason, frequent travel. And we live 8 hours from an airport, drive through Sumatra and backcountry.
Wow, that far! Gosh.
Yeah, That's between 8 and 10, actually. Although daily flights just opened up last month, so that's life-changing for us. But anyway, so anytime we leave the area, we'd have to drive between 8 and 10 hours, and then fly, and then. So it's taken us. One time getting to the States took us 100 hours of travel between flights not lining up right and whatnot.
With small children.
Yeah. And that was when we had 3 kids under 3.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
75 hours, yeah.
Oh wow.
So
I'm never complaining
amazing.
Again.
Honestly, we're extremely lucky that they are very flexible travelers. And, you know, they got their tablet,
it's essential.
You know, distraction and different things, and you know, they'll play little games and stuff. So. Yeah, so we're lucky that we also on the really long hauls we'll try to make some kind of little baggie of surprises that we take out every once in a while.
Sure. Yeah. That's always a good
kind
idea.
Of break it up.
Yeah. Have a bit of a moment of excitement. I mean, I don't think it's probably not that you're lucky that they're good travelers. It's probably that you guys have prepared them well, and they've also had a lot of experience doing that.
They've
so
had
that
a lot
kind of
combination.
Choice. yes. If they've grown up that way, that's just how it always is. Then I think that helps a lot to start with.
It does.
Yeah. That it's not a unique thing. It's just here we are. We're going on our big drive, and then we're going on a plane, and we know what it's all about. So
right.
Yeah. But still, 100 hours of travel. It sounds like a night. I mean, I'm used to pretty long trips because from Australia it's a long way to pretty much everywhere. But but I've never had to, I only live 45 minutes from the airport, so that's considerably better.
I mean, not all of that. Some of that was like a night in a hotel because the flight didn't line up. Like in Kuala Lumpur, or, we had to stay 8 hours or whatever before the next flight, things like that. But yeah, it's a long journey.
Yeah, that is a long journey. Yes, well done. I'm very impressed. I don't think I can emphasize enough how impressed I am that Luke and his wife and their 3 young kids manage to travel 100 hours door to door and not kill each other, because I am really not a fan of long-haul travel anyway. You have to get used to long-haul travel when you live in Western Australia, because a lot of places are a long-haul flight away. But I do remember when my son was between about 1 and 2.5, and it was a nightmare to fly with him. You know, when they're old enough to be on their feet and running around, but too young to be able to be captured by TV or something for any extended period of time. Oh, it's a difficult time to take a child in the kind of, captive environment that an aeroplane is. So very impressed. But I think that it'll be interesting to see how Luke's kids go on as they're into adulthood. Do they love to travel? What's their attitude, and how has this shaped them? So interesting stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to episode 94 of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. Do you think travel has changed your kids, or when you were a kid, did travel change you? I would love to hear anything you have to say on this topic. Do head over to our Facebook group. It's at Thoughtful Travellers on Facebook. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Today's show notes are easy to find. They're at notaballerina.com/94. Speaking of Not a Ballerina, I'll also leave a link in the show notes to my post about the life-changing magic of taking my son to Japan, or you can head to it by using the short link notaballerina.com/Japan2018. So the 2018 is in numbers, of course. Now, also a big thank you to my beautiful guests today. I started off with Stina Frantzich Gardiner, and you can find Stina's website at Birgit and Alva. She's at birgitandalva.com. You can also find Reeva, my second guest, at Proudly South African in Perth. She has a great blog helping people migrate here from South Africa and giving them tips on what to do once they get here as well. So you can find her at proudlysoutafricaninperth.com. And she also has a really active and really useful Facebook group attached to that. And last but very far from least, the delightful Luke Macken. You can find him at wildsumatra.com. And if you want to see some of his gorgeous photos of where he lives in rural Indonesia and some of the trips he does, then head to the blog part of that, which is at wildsumatra.com/blog. You can also catch up with me on Twitter at Amanda Kendall. Use the hashtag ThoughtfulTravelPod. And otherwise, you can catch up with all of this info on the show notes, notaballerina.com/94. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.